All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew show with a little 49er video. Kyle Shanahan sat down today with Steve Wyche of the NFL Network and discussed Brock Purdy. We will discuss what they discussed coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, 415-883-3030, marinautoglass.com on the web. Underdog Fantasy, check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, KRUEG, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check him out along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk a little bit about it. Kyle Shanahan at the NFL owners meetings in Orlando, Florida, doing some media hits, and did a little hit with Steve Wyche from the NFL Network. And Wyche starts his dialogue with Shanahan around Brock Purdy, who obviously is one of the great young players in the game today. And Wyche said, shouldn't Brock Purdy be be more celebrated? Isn't he truly the standard for success when you look at the fact that he's gone to an NFC championship game in his rookie year and then gone to a Super Bowl in his second year? Isn't he truly the standard? And, it's funny. We're going to let you hear it right here. Here is Shanahan and Wyche, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about what Shanahan said to Steve Wyche.
Yet Brock Purdy stands alone, plays in the Super Bowl in just his second season. Shouldn't he be more celebrated? I mean, as just kind of the standard quarterback when you see all these other guys drafted ahead of him, all of a sudden now kind of lost in the shuffle?
I mean, it shows how hard it is to play quarterback in this league. I mean, there's 32 teams, and there's definitely not 32 guys. And even when you do have those moments, the pressure, like, for a guy to do it over and over, week in and week out, and it's such a team game. It's dependent on so many different aspects, but the pressure is always on that guy, and each week. And even when Brock, who's been unbelievable in these 2 years, getting us to the NFC Championship, getting us to the Super Bowl, and when you do that, just the standard changes. So right when people see you're in that club, then they're going to try to see where in that club you are, and it really never stops. There's the pressure that is on those guys. That's why it's one of the most high-paid positions in the league, or definitely the most high-paid position, because they got to earn it, and they do earn it. But Brock's done that these last 2 years. He's been unbelievable. He's done it week in and week out. He's come back from a really tough injury in his first year, had a hell of a year this year. Really hasn't had an offseason yet with us. The first offseason, he was battling to be our third-string quarterback and make the team. Last year in the offseason, he didn't get a throw until training camp. So I'm just pumped. He got married here a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So he's going to come back a full man and be healthy and ready to attack this offseason. And I'm pumped to coach him.
And just with it, him having a full offseason with you, how do you think that's going to help him graduate?
I think it's just everything's about repetition. You can learn it right away. It's about going through it. And Brock's gone through a lot in 2 years in these games, so that's been great for him. But the way you get better is doing it over and over in practice and just drilling it, and it's all about getting those 10,000 reps. And he spent it all last year knowing what he had to do, but he was just focusing to get his arm healthy. Now he can go into this offseason knowing what he has to do, but training his footwork, training his arm, training his mind, just getting in the reps, hopefully in OTAs. You never know how those go, but hopefully we can have a good OTAs, get him that experience. He'll start throwing with the guys here in phase 1 and 2, and you get away for 40 days and you come in, and training camp's right around the corner.
All right, there you go. There's Kyle Shanahan talking with Steve Wyche about Brock Purdy. And Shanahan basically just said, it really shows how hard it is to play quarterback in the NFL. It really does. What Brock Purdy's done the last couple of years is really close to amazing. And the standard, the standard is what Steve Wyche was asking about. Shouldn't Brock be the new kind of like standard bearer of what success is for a young quarterback? Because he went to an NFC championship game and then he went to a Super Bowl. And Shanahan said, hey, you know what? The standard changes as you progress. And it's like, what category are you in? Are you a great young prospect like CJ Stroud on a really young and up and coming football team? And in that scenario, maybe you're given a little bit more, ability to fail or not necessarily win because you're on a team that's kind of growing up around you. So I think there's one standard to evaluate the quarterbacks individually, and then there's the ultimate standard, which is evaluate you individually, but then also evaluate you right up against the best quarterbacks in the game. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and every other great quarterback in the league. And I think that's where Brock Purdy is now. He's no longer being judged. He's not being judged against Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral or any of these guys that were in his quarterback class. He's graduated beyond that. He's now on a really good team and he's playing the position at a really high level. And so we quickly move beyond, how is he compared to Desmond Ridder? And quickly it's like, well, does he compare to Patrick Mahomes? How does he compare to Josh Allen? How does he compare to Lamar Jackson? So now Brock's in that category. He's no longer being compared to the rookies that happen to be in his rookie quarterback class. He's being compared to the best quarterbacks in football. And as Shanahan correctly pointed out, that standard changes as you progress. And I think it's also really interesting to see that that Purdy has progressed from, how does he compare to rookie quarterbacks in his draft class to how does he compare to every other quarterback in the game? Partly because the Niners are competing for Super Bowls, partly because he's been really, really good. But it's interesting that Brock Purdy has yet to have a real NFL offseason yet. He hasn't had one. He's rehabbed injuries. He hasn't really had that full offseason where he knows the offense and he's out there trying to grind and work on everything, from his mechanics to his footwork to his release to, his processing. He's not really had that off season. And so I'm really eager to see what he looks like after this off season. It's as Shanahan pointed out, everything is about repetitions. You got to get a bunch of reps. That's how you get better as an NFL player. You rep it. You rep it in the off season. You rep it in practice. You rep it against air. You rep it against a defense. And you just keep those repetitions going until you perfect your craft, until suddenly your arm and your footwork and your release and your timing and your relationship with your receivers and your knowledge of their route running, and it all comes together. But it doesn't come together naturally, and it doesn't come together automatically. It comes together because of field reps. And that's what Brock Purdy hasn't had. And to me, if you want to say what is the most amazing thing about Brock Purdy, it's that he did have this all come together without the reps. So what does that tell you? With the reps, this guy could be scary good. He could be really, really good. If he gets the reps and he's all the work on his footwork and his arm and his release and his motion and his being on the same page with his receivers and understanding the nuances of their route running and how they like to break off a certain route, how they like to work back for the football. I mean, all the different little intricacies that go into getting a quarterback and a wide receiver on the same page, they're going to go through this offseason. So to me, if you're a believer in Brock Purdy, you're going to see a whole lot better player this summer in training camp than you ever saw before, because he's now had, an off season to, review what he did, understand what he needs to improve at, work at it, have a full off season of reps and field reps and mental reps and video reps and all the different things that help you become a great quarterback. So that to me is the most exciting part about Brock Purdy. And you could see Shanahan smiling throughout this interview. Why? Because he knows it. He knows that's the truth. If Brock Purdy could be really good without these reps, imagine what he could be with them. And that will make any offensive coach smile. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to all of our other sponsors, and thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.